You're getting older right now. Your cells are aging by the second, but here's the shocking truth. Aging is not inevitable. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to slow down and possibly even reverse your biological age. And wait until the end because I'm about to reveal something so groundbreaking, most people aren't even talking about it yet. Stick around. You do not want to miss it. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Amy, a medical physician passionate about everything health and medicine related. And on this platform, I hope to share some of my limited knowledge about the human body, health, diseases, and we can hopefully live longer and healthier altogether. So, age. I do want to say that age is just a number to some, but to others, it reveals much more. I've personally put a lot of thought into this, and in my practice, I've seen patients who are 70 but look and feel 50, and vice versa. I've seen patients who are 45 but feel and look like they're 70. So, what's the difference? It's not just genetics, it's not luck, it's epigenetics, the switch that you turn your genes on and off with. I'm going to break down the groundbreaking science from Dr. David Sinclair.
It's bad, right?
It's hard, yeah.
That's what it's like to be old. And for far too long, we've ignored it or accepted it as natural. And
one of the world's leading aging researchers at Harvard, who has done extensive work talking about how to slow aging, how to reverse it, and what you can do starting today. It's backed by research, well-conducted studies, so let's dive into it. Theory number one, aging is a disease, and we can treat it, or at least prolong it to a certain extent. 80 to 90% of heart diseases, Alzheimer's, cancers, diabetes, you name it, they're all caused by aging itself. If we slow or reverse aging, these disappear and they just get better. Dr. Sinclair used the analogy of the DNA as a CD music player. Some of you probably don't know what that is, but for us millennials and elder people, then we know what a CD music player is. So stay with me. The epigenome, or your epigenetics, is the CD player itself. And over time, it develops scratches on the CD, right? Things can happen to the CD player to make it a bit scratchy. And the more the scratches appear, the CD player starts to skip, maybe malfunction a bit. And that's basically what happens with the epigenetics. And some genes are turned on by the switch. Sometimes maybe the wrong genes are turned on, and sometimes the right genes are turned off. And that's basically aging. But here's the good part. We can polish off those scratches on the CDs. Your epigenome is 80% controlled by your lifestyle, not your genes. So that means you have massive, massive power over how fast you age, basically. Theory number two, your biological age can be up to 20 years younger than your chronological age. We've all seen some celebrities nowadays doing these expensive blood works and MRI scans to determine their biological age and how much more younger they are than what they look like, and so on and so forth. So this is where I'd like to introduce you guys to something called the Horvath clock. It's a test that measures your biological age using DNA methylation. And DNA methylation in simple terms just means when you have your DNA, methyl groups start to accumulate or start to bind to your DNA. And that can tell us, based on how methylated it is or not methylated, how old you are or how biologically old you are. So some people are 10 to 20 years younger biologically than their actual age. Hard to say, but that's what this specific Horvath clock calculates. And here's what's wild. The biggest aging spike happens in childhood and puberty. The slower you go through puberty, apparently, the longer you live, according to Dr. Sinclair and his buddies who've been studying this for a while. So, I mean, we've all seen those kids who go home for the summer and they come back with a deep voice, a beard, or like girls who go home for the summer and all of a sudden they have specific body parts that's developed, like the hips, the breasts, etc. And this is a sign that they actually underwent a very fast sort of puberty over the summer, right? Because they come back looking like a completely different person. And this is obviously not to scare anybody, but the faster you go through puberty, the higher association you have to aging quicker. And the most shocking part, you guys, you are as old as you look. So What does that mean? Centenarians, people who live up to 100 and plus, at age 70, oftentimes they look like they're about 50. So if you look older, your cells are probably aging faster. So now let's get into the nitty gritty of what to do to slow down aging. Number one, if you only take one message from this video, make it please, please, please skip one meal every day. Unless, of course, you have an underlying metabolical condition where your blood sugar levels need to be constantly high or monitored, regulated if you're on some specific medication that lowers your blood sugar. But if you're a normal person, skip a meal, preferably breakfast or dinner, because that way we can add the fasting period onto the sleep time. It doesn't matter if it's breakfast or dinner, just maybe put it close to either waking up or sleeping. So it's basically intermittent fasting, right? You just don't eat for a certain period of time and then the body starts to heal itself. Um, the first 3 weeks are extremely hard, then it becomes automatic. I've personally haven't eaten breakfast in I don't even know how many years. I just don't. I'm not hungry. I don't need it. I have my first meal around like what, 1 p.m. ish. And mind you, I do work out as well before, but I'm able to tolerate it. If you're not able to tolerate that, then you can start maybe by eating half of your breakfast that you normally eat, and then eventually one fourth, and then eventually skip it. And then eventually you'll be able to sustain these long periods of times without eating. So your body, after a certain time, adjusts to the hunger and changes. So your feeding rhythm becomes different. So we've all heard about intermittent fasting and the benefits of fasting, but I rarely hear about why it actually works, right? People are going to cure you, lose weight. Yeah, but there's actually a science behind it. So what happens when you fast? Your body switches on its longevity genes called sirtuins. And this is something that I learned from Dr. David Sinclair, actually. It also triggers something called autophagy. So it's your cells kind of deep cleaning mode. Your cells, especially the immune cells, they start to clean up the environment a bit when they have a lot of free time. When you're not like constantly putting them to work by eating or inhaling stuff that you shouldn't be inhaling. By that, I mean, like, let's say, for example, you have a couple of, misfolded proteins that might develop into faulty cells, or you already have defective cells that are not really functioning the way they're supposed to. When you're fasting, your immune system and your immune cells, they have time to devour and get rid of these unnecessary cells or misformed substances in the body, which eventually leads to you aging slower. Dr. Anna Maria Cuerno is a researcher, and she has a research, very interestingly, where it shows that when she basically triggered something called a chaperone-mediated autophagy in old mice. So, in easier terms, when they fasted these elderly mice for specific hours during the day, those fasted group of mice lived 35% longer than the other group. And usually we talk a lot about mice in human studies because mice are very metabolically close to us, so to speak. So I kind of like do research on them and kind of estimate or guesstimate what it's going to look like on a human being. So back to the fasting. Best and most deepest cleanse actually turned out to be a 3-day fast. So this is what they concluded. If you once a month can fast for about 3 days, 72 hours, and that's where the magic will happen. But of course, not everybody can tolerate that. I personally don't enjoy going extremely long periods of time without eating. So this 2, 3 day fast monthly, I'll admit I don't do it because I don't want to do it. What's the point of living, right? I want to be able to function normally as well. But if you're the kind of person that really, really wants to reverse aging and you feel like, oh my God, I have all these different things in my body and I kind of want to have like a detox mode, you can give it a try, unless you obviously, again, have some kind of a metabolic condition that would prohibit you from doing so. So now let's go to point number 4. You guessed it, exercise. It's a non-negotiable, guys. Doesn't matter how you turn, which side up, down, left, right, you need to exercise if you want to live longer. And you need actually both aerobic exercise, so cardiovascular, so cardio training, and resistance training, so lifting weights and stuff like that. If we talk about cardio or aerobic exercise, like running, cycling, swimming, All of these raises something in the body called the NAD+. The NAD+ is a molecule that we produce endogenously in our own body, so we produce it ourselves. And NAD+ is an antioxidant. So the cells in the body need it for different chemical reactions to kind of like get rid of some super radical particles, for example, that are called some unwanted chemical residue can be removed by NAD, right? They're very important for you, because without the NAD, basically, your cells cannot function properly, and yes, you will perish. But another thing that NADs do, which is super interesting, is that they activate SIRT1 and SIRT3, so your longevity genes that we talked about earlier on, if you remember, by Dr. David Sinclair. But of course, when it comes to cardiovascular training, I always say not too much either, because you will end up straining the body and produce a lot of cortisol, which is a stress hormone produced by the adrenal gland in high levels of stress. And cortisol in the body for extended periods of time is detrimental, especially for the immune system, your adrenal glands. So what I'm saying is, don't try to run a marathon every day. That's just counterproductive. But 30 to 40 minutes exercise where you sweat, heart rate is slightly elevated, that's the way to go. So now let's talk about resistance training. Most people actually prefer resistance training for some reason. I don't know why. I personally love cardiovascular training because of the endorphins, probably kind of gives me like this weird high sensation. Resistance training is actually my least favorite, but I do it mostly because I like to see when I have gains in muscles and how I feel afterwards. I feel rejuvenated, I feel younger, I feel healthier. But let's talk about resistance training. Weights or body weight training maintains muscle mass and obviously testosterone as well. And all of these things, muscle mass and testosterone, NAD+, they all decrease with age. So constantly keeping them elevated as you age will stabilize aging, or at least not make it progress as fast. So together, cardiovascular training and resistance training is the ultimate anti-aging hack. And now let's talk a little bit about my least favorite, supplements, right? Disclaimer, I don't promote any kind of company or supplements here. I will only speak on the science behind these supplements. I am a big skeptic on supplements simply because I tend to think that I feel like they're oversaturated now. There's so many different supplements out there. Anybody can put out a supplement. I can wake up tomorrow and go contact a lab somewhere and tell them that I want to have a supplement and it's going to be done, right? But the difference is it doesn't have to go through the grueling and excruciating clinical trials that we have with regular medications. The control behind it is not as efficient as actual drugs that you're prescribed to by your doctor. When it comes to aging, there's one supplement I like to talk about, and that's called NMN. NMN is the precursor of NAD+. NAD+, like I told you, is the antioxidant, if you remember, and NMN is what converts to NAD in the body. So the more NMN you have, the more NAD+ you'll have. So people are taking supplements, and usually they've seen a difference in about 2 weeks, I believe, where the NAD+ levels doubled. That means like you're doubling the amount of longevity genes that you turn on. So, there was actually a Harvard study where they gave people 1 to 2 grams of NMN daily. And obviously this was done in Harvard, so they actually were giving them NMN. It was a very controlled study. After 2 weeks, the blood NAD levels of these patients increased, all of them, every single time, no exceptions. They were given 1 to 2 gram daily of NMN, and NAD+ was up in 2 weeks. So that's a supplement that I would say would be related to aging. Again, not a must. If you have a company that you trust, that you think produces good products, fine. But I personally don't take NMN, but I know a lot of doctors that do. Now, let's go to another supplement, or rather compound or molecule in the body, iron. So iron has been shown, and this is actually pretty recent, you guys, it's shown to accelerate aging. And this is something actually that most doctors miss, even me, before I came across the study. Too much iron speeds up aging. But like, what does that have to do with aging? Excess iron, when it builds up in your cells, it creates something called senescent cells. And these are zombie cells that basically they stop dividing after a while, but they don't die. They just basically don't have a function except just occupying space and bulking up the area. And of course, with anything that's unnecessary in the body, it causes inflammation. And inflammation, guess what? Accelerates aging. A study from Manuel Serrano's lab showed that an accumulation of iron drives senescent cells to produce more or to stay alive longer, and also leads to fibrosis. The fact is, many people focus on longevity, but they forget that iron supplements can practically slow it down if it's in excess in your body. So checking your iron levels and ferritin levels, which is the storage of where your iron is stored in the body, can help you improve longevity. So this takes us to point number 7, your number one longevity predictor. If there's one blood test that predicts heart attacks better than cholesterol, it's high sensitivity CRP. CRP, called C-reactive protein, measures inflammation in the body. It's what we check usually when someone comes in and we suspect an infection, something, or some kind of inflammation in the body. I usually order a CRP from the clinic. And if your CRP is high, it turns out your risk of heart disease and death goes up, even if your blood sugar and cholesterol look normal. That was very interesting to me because we take CRP quite often and very regularly. It's not an expensive exam to take or blood work to take. It takes about 2 seconds to do. You can even take it on the finger, so it doesn't have to be necessarily venous blood. You can take it from the capillary blood on the fingers, and predicts a lot, actually. Very, very amazing new tool we have for inflammation, but also predicting longevity. If you're somebody that's really interested in following your aging longevity, and if you would want me to recommend you 3 blood works, first would probably be CRP to check for inflammation and overall aging progression. The other one would be something called HbA1c. It's basically a glycosylated hemoglobin in the body, so it shows us how your blood sugar levels have looked for the last 3 months, because one HbA1c cell gets glycosylated and stays in the bloodstream for about 3 months. So depending on that, we can tell how much sugar you've been eating or not. So these are the patients that, let's say, for example, I do have some patients who maybe might be overweight or have diabetes, and I tell them to reduce the sugar intake, which they say they do. So they come in the morning for their blood working, and fasting blood sugar is fantastic. But then when I take HbA1c, that's a different story. I can tell they've been consuming things they weren't supposed to be consuming, right? So back to aging. HbA1c, C-reactive protein, and finally, iron, and specifically ferritin, your iron storage, because you don't want to have excess iron. You need iron to survive. You need it in the body, but you don't need excesses of it. If you take these blood tests, I don't know, every 6 months to a year and watch the trends, it could actually help you predict how long you're going to live. And so now, the big reveal, early Christmas present for you guys, if you will. And here's the thing that I promised, right? To reveal at the beginning of the video. Researchers extremely recently just discovered that NMN, the molecule that I spoke about, the supplement, the precursor to NAD+, turns out it can actually restore fertility in old mice. Yes, you guys. Fertility. So usually, I don't know how long mice live, but not very long. In this study, when they discovered that NMN can increase reproductive ability, 16-month-old mice who were infertile after 12 months had babies just 6 weeks after starting NMN treatment. And this broke the textbook rule that reproduction is impossible after a certain age. So ladies, if your biological clock is ticking and you feel like, oh my God, there's so much I want to do, so little time, but I still need to have these offsprings and babies, there might be a solution coming soon. Don't quote me on it. I'm not doing research on it. I can't promise anything, but it seems like it could lead to some developments. But overall, it's not just about like the reproductive system, or it's about you living younger, your cells, your organs, your reproductive system. It can all be rejuvenated if you follow these 3 protocols that I spoke about. And the best part, you don't need to wait for a clinic. You don't need to wait for an expensive doctor's visit. Start with skipping 1 meal a day, exercise regularly, try to lower your iron. And if you're willing to, get your hands on some NMN supplements. You've already started the reversal of the aging process. Let's do a little recap. If you took one thing from today's video, let it be this: aging is not destiny. You have power over your biological age. What you can do today to not only reverse it, but slow it down is you can start skipping a meal a day. So intermittent fasting, exercising daily, tracking your CRP, iron levels, and HbA1c levels in the blood if you can afford it or have healthcare that is paid for. Some people don't have it and insurance probably won't pay for it, but it's something that you don't have to do it. But if you can, it's good for you to see the trends of how your body progresses. And if you're able to get your hands on it, take some NMN supplements from a trusted company that you think. So if this video helped you, click the like button and maybe share it with people who you might think could benefit from this. And also hit the bell button, because next week I'm revealing the latest studies done about Tylenol in pregnancy and autism. Thanks for watching. Stay young, stay healthy, and I'll see you on the next one.